You're listening to Leading Victory, a podcast where we ask what makes you come alive and infuse you with the inspiration and courage to take action to live your victories out, both big and small. I'm your host, Amanda Nicole. I want to take a moment and thank you for your patience. I know that I have been delayed in posting, and so many of you reached out to me, which I appreciate. I was living some victories in my life for family. We had some things pop up that I had to just put this on hold. And I just ask for your forgiveness in really not communicating that clearly. So thank you for sticking with me. We have some incredible stuff coming up, and I promise you we are going to continue to champion those victories and deliver great content for you. So with that being said, thank you for your grace, and let's get started. Enjoy the show. All right, my friends, today I have the great pleasure of bringing to you one of my friends that I met in our podcasting course. Suzanne has been such sunshine to get to know. I wanted to make sure that I brought her to you in the month of October because of her perspective on mental health and what she brings to help understand emotions, particularly hard emotions. I've watched her navigate overcoming mindset of overthinking, and she's been such a joy and a pleasure. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Oh, Amanda, it's such an honor to be on your show. And it's such an honor to get to know you in the podcast course. But now working with you as a coach, I just feel like I've blossomed from being in your presence. And so thank you.
That's so complimentary. And you have blossomed. You're really mastering that beautiful marriage between action and thinking. So capture for me a little bit about what's shifted for you in the past few months.
Okay. So when I first started out, everything was deadline based. I even found myself doing it when I had pop-up classes maybe a month ago. I knew I was teaching that afternoon and I waited until 2 hours before the class to figure out what I was going to teach. I had a rough idea, but I like to write things out to organize my thoughts. I remember saying to you, I'm waiting. And it's so stressful, so bad for you and chaotic. As a society, we get that high from waiting, that frantic energy, but the frantic energy is so chaotic. And so from that, I learned that I'm a meditation teacher and I teach calmness. You could have power hours and like 30 minutes of dedicated work. You could do it in advance and organize it. Having that organization and plan made it so much more doable, so much more fun, so much more at ease. And I find myself getting more stuff done, but with more ease than pain.
That's huge. Working out of a place of peace rather than a place of pain. But you've experienced a lot of pain in your life.
Oh, yes.
A lot of pain. So what is it like to retrain to come from a place of fun and peace rather than pain? Like what had to shift inside of you?
So I should back up. The pain I've experienced, as you know, is not comparable. The pain I had was I lost my little boy when he was 9 to leukemia. I was destroyed, completely destroyed, as any parent would understand. Christopher had leukemia 3 times. The first time when he was 3, the second time when he was 8, and the third time when he was 9. And remission, he got into it like that, 28 days. But then the treatment period was 2.5 years. I had an anxiety disorder, diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I wanted to give my boys a good childhood. I also wanted to keep them safe. That's not always on the same plane.
No.
But I felt like my husband and I, but I was a stay-at-home mom, so I was with them full time. We were holding their childhood in our hands. I really expected him to live, but I couldn't make they were diagnosed. He was 3 and his younger brother was 1. And when he finished treatment, he would be almost 6 and his little brother would be almost 4. It would have been terrible if their whole life was about doctor's visits and chemo. So I created practices to be present to them.
Mm.
And the fear, even though it was there, I came up with the idea before it was a thing, one fun thing a day. And I figured if I could do one fun thing a day, no matter what, then that was our goal. The focus was on fun,
Mhm.
not fear. If it was raining, I'm very spontaneous. I would take spaghetti pots and a tennis ball and we would jump over pillows, or we'd put on rain boots and run around in the puddles. And, it was just doing that. Like I had two practices and that was one of them.
Wow. I just have this beautiful image of all of the amazing, sweet memories you made with your little boy and the playtime that you made that entire time in their life. And it is about perspective. So you still have anxiety, right?
Yep, I
Obviously.
still do.
And I think it's interesting because you were saying that even though I'm a meditation teacher, even though I teach yoga, we love to tell ourselves, even though I'm doing these things. So tell me, as far as it comes with anxiety, how has your practice served you in being able to manage that anxiety between Jin Shin and yoga and meditation?
I still have anxiety, but I don't have the anxiety I had when they were younger,
Mm.
probably because my child's not on, having a child going through that, being a younger parent, but I still have anxiety. My practices ground me. I was thinking about this the other day. I got up and chanted. So I practice Jin Shin Jitsu, which is light touch healing. And I also practice Kundalini yoga. I got up and chanted because there's a specific chant called Satanama.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it and I could feel the ease, I could feel the grounding. And I almost thought, oh my goodness, this is like putting a life jacket on.
Mm-hmm.
And when I don't put it on, I'm going out in the world and everything bombards me. But when I do that meditation and I have my life jacket on, it takes the energy field around you and it makes it larger so people's stuff doesn't bombard you as easily.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And then Jin Shin Jitsu, I started doing it at the beginning of your interview. I have a podcast. I've had a podcast for almost a year, but still, when I'm interviewed or am I interviewing, I still reach for my thumb. So
Mm-hmm.
that's Jin Shin Jitsu. And Jin Shin Jitsu is you hold specific locations on the body to balance mind, body, spirit. And holding the thumb comes with anxiety. I teach it to everyone I come in contact with, both clients, students, and ordinary people.
Which I think is great, right? When you can be your own healer and people don't even know that those things exist, which is so cool to be able to
Yes.
offer that. People can look at you like you're nutty, but at the same time, if they do it, right, then it's great. It's a great opportunity.
I had a client just before I got on. She Facebook messaged me and said, I crossed my wrists and held my inner thighs. I was so nauseous and had such indigestion. And I did it for 20 minutes. Then she put in the next message, and it worked.
I love that. That's interesting, right? How often do we convince ourselves that something's not going to work?
I have a really good friend who is always asking me for suggestions. I was talking to her just last week and I said, I didn't think it was going to work. I've been practicing this for 13 years. She said, Suzanne, you always say that and you're a practitioner. I know. That's how crazy the mind is. It convinces us it's not going to work. I have thousands of examples where it's worked.
Mm-hmm.
The mind, that's the ego mind trying to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And something that I have loved introducing to you that you've really embraced and it's been fun to see is that you can now see that in your mind it's not necessarily just part of you, it's them, that those habits of thinking, your habits of thinking aren't who you are. Who you are is this natural genius that can think on the fly, that can plan out, that can have fun, that is spontaneous and whatnot. Those habits of thinking are the ones that are in doubt.
Yes, yes. I just said that to someone the other day. I said, that's your habit of thinking, not who you are.
When we look at something as a habit, we realize that we don't have to change who we are. We are perfectly and wonderfully made, but our habits of thinking can be wonky, right?
Such a beautiful way of saying it. I almost texted you last night and I'm like, it's Sunday night. Don't be bothering Amanda. But the scrolls that we read through, and I was reading last night's, it was Laughing at the World.
Oh yeah.
And it shifted things for me. I needed to do something for someone. They wanted to get a picture for a haircut, right? They wanted to get a picture of someone because I said, you have to look at them. She said, but she's going to Turkey tomorrow. How do I get in touch with her? I don't know this person very well, but I know her enough. And I emailed her and I said, you have the most beautiful haircut. Can I get a picture of you to send to my friend because she wants to get a haircut like you? But as I was thinking about it, I was like, she's going to think you're insane. And then I thought, who cares? Because
Yeah.
one, you're giving her this beautiful compliment.
Mm-hmm.
And two, don't take yourself so seriously. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And then I sent my friend the photo and she's like, I can't believe you actually got it. That habit of thinking is that it's not ridiculous. We make it ridiculous. We create fear around it. We tell ourselves it's going to be the end of our safety. We're going to fall apart.
And we don't fall apart. And even if we do, there's so many things in that. Part of leading victory is choosing to lead your own life and moving away from that victim mindset into victory day in, day out. For you, with your journey, what does leading victory mean to you?
I think it's making a decision to do the practices, to decide what you need. What do you need to show up as your best self? And I know that language is overused, but how can you be you? Because we all have an insecurity. We all have doubt. We all have days that are going to be harder than other days. And it can have nothing to do with the outside world, right? Leading victory is really getting quiet with yourself, figuring out what you need to support yourself, and then doing it, showing up for you. Because when you show up for you, or I show up for me, then your day is so much more magical, even if you're having a hard time. You can find the light. I did one of the scrolls the other morning, which was this were the last day of my life. It was so amazing. I got up early, I went on a bike ride, and everything, like, I ran into someone I never met before, and they had the same dog I had as a child, which no one has. Then I was riding on the streets, and there was a sprinkler, and I was going to get wet. But as soon as I got there, it changed directions, and I didn't get wet. I feel like it's because I made the decision that morning what my day would be like. Now, of course, we can have things happen to us. We are not God. We can't control the day. But we can create a mindset through our practices that can shift. So we're more positive going into the day. Leading victory to me is making a conscious decision to tap into your own victory.
That's powerful. Really looking at the day of like, what can go right today?
We rehearse all day long about what can go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we give ourselves the tools and the quiet, even if it's only for 4 minutes in the morning? That's all it takes. Can it just be 4 minutes? And it can shift your day.
Now, is there science behind 4 minutes?
There is. I learned it from someone else. But I can't give you the science. It's really interesting. It's really interesting because I have heard 4 minutes so many times. I was told in a course I took, 4 minutes of visualization cancels out 8 hours of worry. And a lot of the times I just literally, maybe I'm visualizing something I want in the future, but a lot of the times I close my eyes. I just imagine what I really want for that day. And it can be so simple, like feeling the ground under my feet, hearing the birds, feeling the air on my face. It can be so simple, but it still shifts my day versus, I got to go teach 50 students today. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And I imagine as you've been practicing, moving from that obligation language, I have to, I need to, I should, versus to going into like, oh, I get to, I want to, I need,
I did that last night. I was like, it was 11 o'clock. And I have to say, what you taught us, I want to, I get to, I choose to, is so much more powerful than I get to. Because I get to is like, yeah, sure.
I'm going to take the trash out.
Exactly. And I've taught it. And it just really doesn't resonate with me. But if I say, like, I want to, I get to, I choose to go to bed, versus staying up. I literally get up and I go to bed. And maybe I'll read for a bit in bed, but it's still better than going to bed at midnight and reading for a bit.
That's huge. Just giving yourself that gift of rest. I saw the other day that rest isn't a privilege, right? It's not something, it's not a reward. Rest is a requirement, not a reward.
That is so huge.
I'm aware, at least in my own anxiety journey, that I can start the day with the best of intentions, start grounded. It's going to be a great day, looking for great things. And out of the blue, anxiety will hit you. Anybody listening with anxiety knows that happens. What's, in your experience, something that we can do to really bring us back? Because whether we're on medication or whatnot, what do you suggest?
I suggest a couple of things. Interestingly enough, I'm going to actually suggest three things. One is the Satanama meditation that I mentioned before. It's called the Kirtan Kriya. For my young students, I teach high school and college students. I recommend 3 minutes a day for them. It works for them at 3 minutes a day. For adults, anyone who is an adult, they recommend 12 minutes to have true change. What I experience when I practice that meditation 12 minutes a day, every day, I don't have as much anxiety. I don't worry as much. I see more clarity. I'll do it for a month, 2 months, and then one day I'll get up and I don't feel like doing it. And so I don't do it. And then I suffer, you know, and then getting back to it takes longer. So I still do that. One thing that's super powerful is holding your thumb or any of your fingers, but the thumb calms worry. I teach at a local community college. I teach yoga for stress management, and my students are college students, and then I have high school juniors. And I teach them holding the thumb and breathing and the breath. We forget about the breath. The breath is so powerful. I have them hold their thumb and breathe. And a lot of the times, if you're feeling anxious, I always say, check your breath because you're likely holding it. One student, I love to give their examples. He held that thumb. He said to me, what's really funny, because I looked at him like he thought I was crazy. I just assumed he thinks I'm crazy. When he came up to me 2 weeks after class started and he said, I have to tell you, I really love that. I have social anxiety and I'm so afraid to introduce myself in class. And I did the thumb and the breath. And by the time it came my turn, I was fine. Then I had another student who's an athlete. And he said, I got up to bat and I was thinking about 8 things. He was probably worrying about how far he'd hit it, the scouts, all of this. And he said, I held my thumb and breathed, and my 8 things went to 1, and I hit the ball further. So the breath is really powerful. I went to the dentist. This is just a little aside, and then I'll get to the third thing. I went to the dentist the other day, and they started to numb me. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm giving you Novocaine. And I said, oh, I don't use Novocaine because I had a bad reaction once. And well, what do you do? So I showed her what finger I held. The reason I bring it up is so I held a certain finger because it helps large intestine energy runs through that finger, and it also runs through the mouth. If I didn't use the breath, it would have hurt because I would have been tensing. So I did long, deep breathing. It hurt a little bit, but not enough to use Novocaine. The third thing I do, and this has been super powerful for me, I did this belief course last year, and it was all about when you have a real anxiety, not just nervous about taking a test, because that's situational. But when you have daily anxiety, Jin Shin Jitsu is super powerful, but I want to have quick results.
Right.
I want it in the moment. I know my teachers will tell you Jin Shin Jitsu does work. Yes, it does. But I want to fortify myself with as much as I can.
Sure.
And so I really learned this practice where it's called CTFAR. C means circumstance, T is the thought, F is the feeling, A is the action, and R is the result. So the circumstance is, I don't know, like
Costco on a Sunday.
Right. Costco on a Sunday. The thought is like, I'm never going to get out of there. If you have claustrophobia, then you have the feeling and you're tightened. And then the action, you probably don't go, and then you don't have food to feed your family. The thought is, wow, they have really great books. I get to pick a new book today, or I get to listen to music on the way there. You get to choose how you think. I do this practice and you're like, that takes too much time, but it's so quick once you practice it. I was on a bike ride one time. When I went past the person, I yelled, on your left, and I scared them. They jumped, and as I went past them, I was like, why did you scream? You could have just gone by them. They're probably going to think you're rude. All the craziness went through my mind. Then I thought, what's a different thought? A different thought would be, they're so appreciative that I warned them that I was there versus hitting them.
Yeah.
And I just dropped. Like, it was truth. That's the thing, right? When we're thinking false thoughts, we're jittery, we're anxious because it's not truth. But when we lock into truth, anxiety evaporated.
That's good. That's so good to think about, that what isn't true makes us jittery.
Yes.
And it crosses those boundaries for ourselves. That's really cool. I hadn't heard that before, but I've experienced it. And I imagine that people listening are going to be like, I feel that. That rings true. That tracks. Suzanne, what do you feel has been one of the key factors that has allowed you to develop the character and endurance and vision to seek out this peace for yourself and to serve others?
Perhaps it's a fighting spirit. And back when my little boy was sick, I fought to give them a normal life. With my husband, he doesn't have anxiety. So it was a fight for me. After my son passed, it was a fight for my younger son to help him while we were all drowning. And fight is such a negative word. So I don't mean fight, but it's almost like I am happy so often throughout the day. The fact that I could go through that and be here, I want to be able to offer that to other people. And I want to have that for myself. I know what it's like to be drowning. I was in deep grief for 3 years. I didn't leave my house except to pick my son up from school and drop him off. I was angry. I don't have depression naturally, but I experienced it then. I know how supportive doing what can help me, how supportive doing the things that can help me be. And that's why I seek it out. I know I have so many tools because I've used so many tools on myself. I have so much to offer others. If I am drowning, well, then I can't help you because I can't help myself.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for sharing. What advice would you give someone who is experiencing a similar circumstance or struggle that you have seen victory in?
Do you mean losing a child or simply having anxiety?
Either. I mean, I guess, because it sounds like what I'm hearing you say is that really joy is your superpower. Happiness can be fleeting, but joy really has been your superpower, hence your podcast, right?
Yes. Finding joy in the hard.
Finding joy in the hard.
I think you have to slow down. Like, I have a lot of energy. When I move very fast, I get hurt in some way. I fractured my wrist because I was rushing to get somewhere and I slid across the ice and down the steps.
Oh, wow.
Last week, I left the stove on. Thankfully, I have OCD, so I will never leave the house without checking the stove. But that day, I wasn't leaving the house. My husband's like, you left the stove on. I'm like, oh, sorry. Because I was going too fast. I was moving very fast. And when I move very fast, I forget things. I am more jittery. So the first thing would be to slow down. Writing out my thoughts is really big for me. You can start with a little tiny notebook. It doesn't have to be a big notebook. Just writing for 3 pages in the morning. I have to tell you, I have a lot of tools that I use. I don't use them all the time. Like holding the thumb for Jin Shin Jitsu, practicing Jin Shin Jitsu, it will always be part of my life because it's just part of me now. Sometimes I skip the meditation, sometimes I practice it. So I have them come and go. That's another thing. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be rigid because we're so judgmental of ourselves, and we're judgy of others. If we're judgy of ourselves, we're judgy of others. Slow down, listen to yourself, get quiet. If you pray, meditate, just really listen. It seems simplistic, but it's not, because sometimes when I've taught classes, I teach this one class once a month, and I've been teaching at this yoga studio for years, and we're now once a month. And so in the beginning of class, you have a teaching, and oh, wow, they haven't seen me in a month. It's got to be really good. And started scrambling, looking through all my books, doing exactly what I've told you not to do. And then I paused and I thought, just show up. Just show up as you. And when I got there, I told them this. I told them that I was going through everything, trying to find them the perfect thing. And I just realized, you just want me.
Wow, that's so good.
And that's all the people in your life want, is you, not the 5,000 things you can do for them.
That's tender. So have you learned to celebrate yourself, or how have you learned to celebrate yourself?
Okay, that's an area that needs work.
What do you think makes that hard? What does make that so hard for people to celebrate themselves? It's a challenge enough being ourselves, but to celebrate ourselves.
I think we convince ourselves we're not there yet. I haven't completed it. I haven't finished it. It's got to be something really big. We hear in every program, celebrate yourself, celebrate yourself. I've been on calls where it's so great. Like when you're in a group, what's one good thing that's happened to you this week? You're so excited to share it. But with yourself, it's that judgment, that perfectionism. Some people have it more than others. This morning, my internet was not working. And I teach a Monday morning meditation. Every Monday, it's complimentary. I've been doing it for 4 years. I get on this morning and I have no internet. And at first, I yelled to my husband, he's a technology guy, Zoom's not working. Then when it was still not working, I was like, oh, well, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. When someone called me, and the celebrating part would have been like, I just was like, okay with it. Yeah. And I did eventually get on, and they all waited. At least 10 people were waiting for me. And I always start right at 8 a.m. So that's pretty surprising.
That's great.
There were so many little things to celebrate about it. Yet I keep a gratitude journal without fail every night.
That's a really key practice. You definitely are a person of words, and you write words and you capture words. Are there any quotes that you live by?
It's very interesting when you ask me that question. I don't repeat them in my mind or anything, but they resonate with me. One of them is, not choosing is still a choice.
Yeah.
I procrastinate. I put things off. Since I started working with you, I don't as much, because I think about my future self and how I can help her. I got that from someone I interviewed on a podcast, but it's so true. I like her and I don't want her to be frantic. So I forget that not choosing is a choice. And this one I live by. I read Pam Grout's Course in Miracles experiments many days a week. And one of the things she says, and I live this, is on a daily basis, I instruct my mind to look for beauty.
That's
and
so
I
cool.
do that without thinking about it. I just see what's unique about today, or what can I really cherish today.
So much fun. It's been so fun to watch you come into your natural genius and shine. And this month, you are sharing something with your audience that I want to share with mine, because it's so important going into the holidays. We've got anxiety. It's a weird year. We've got a lot of things going on, and we have different choices that we can do with our emotions. It sounds like you've been able to really capture the full spectrum of emotions and allow yourself to really feel And we've talked about if you want to start feeling better, you've got to get better at feeling. Tell me, what are you launching this month?
I'm launching a course, and the tentative name is You Have to Feel to Heal. Most of us don't know what we're feeling. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, we suppress our emotions. And then they create problems for us mentally, emotionally, physically, and relationally. What I love about Jin Shin Jitsu is it's an ancient Japanese healing modality in which you use your hands and your breath, placing your hands on specific locations on your body to balance mind, body, and spirit. The havoc that's created in our bodies, we call them projects. We don't call them problems or issues. So all the discomfort we have is called projects. We use that name purposely because there's a beginning and an end. But it's caused by emotions. As humans, it's part of being human. We all have emotions. It's when it becomes our attitude or our way of life. We all know someone whose their attitude is anger. Their attitude is anxiety. For sure, my attitude has been two things: anxiety and pretending, right? So there's 5 core emotions. It's anxiety, and it's represented each by a finger. You can hold a different finger to calm that emotion. So it's anxiety, fear, anger, sadness, and an uncommon one that we're not used to, which is pretending. Laughing on the outside, crying on the inside. All of them are related to different organ function energy. So, for example, if your pretending is out of balance, you're more likely to have specific projects, heart related or small intestine related. The cool thing is we say Jin Shin Jitsu is complicatedly simple. It's simple to practice, but what happens in the body is complicated. And so you can throw your well-being off very easily, but you can also bring it back into well-being very easily by holding a finger, by holding somewhere else on the body. The course I'm creating is You Have to Feel to Heal. For example, if you crave sweets, that's related to anxiety. If you crave salt, that's related to fear. If you find that you get triggered easily and you react versus you respond, that's anger. And so once you know what you're feeling, you can know it's that emotion. And then there are tools to work with that emotion to balance it. So the course will be 7 weeks, but the 5 middle weeks, one will be on anxiety to peace, fear to peace of mind or courage, anger to calm, sadness to comfort or joy, and then pretending to truth. So you'll learn how to heal working with your emotions.
That's so cool. So 7-week course, moving through the holidays, helping people navigate what they're feeling, to tap into their feelings, to have improved well-being into the new year. And then there's a workshop that you have introducing some of this. That's free. Where can they find information about that?
Definitely through my mailing list, and they can find it on my website. Which the other thing I'm offering for anyone, you can get a picture of the hand that you can save to your own computer or laptop with all that emotion, with all the organs, and that will be in the show notes as well.
Amazing. I'm excited for that because I hope that people slow down this year for the holidays. And I hope that people feel, and wouldn't it be neat for people to not be afraid of feeling? It's not about the holidays. There's a lot of expectations, right? The number one cause of grief is unmet expectations. Expecting to feel a certain way. We didn't get this gift. We didn't give them that gift. There's so many different things that can happen. It's not about feelings being isolated. The holidays bring up a lot of triggers that bring up a lot of emotions that we have judgment over. And I love that you're offering this as a tool, but it's really something that can be offered year round. And I love that. And it'll increase immune system. And I'm so excited for it. And I'm so excited for you. As we're signing off, are there any words of wisdom do you want to give the audience?
A lot of the times, I just learned this. We'll have a thought, and usually it'll be an inspired thought. And it'll be something so exciting that you want to do. And then right after you have that thought, you start to think, wait a minute, that's not going to work out, or I'm not going to be able to do that. So that's the thinking. You can think of it as the ego. You can think of it as, depending upon your beliefs, you can think about it as the devil. You can think about it as any way that isn't you. It's not your truth. So watch that. When you have that inspired thinking, and you're going to get such amazing. So what happens is you have the inspired thinking, and then you have all the fear, anxiety, grief, questioning, all of that coming in. That isn't truth. That's just your ego trying to keep you safe. And it really wants to keep you safe, which is, it goes to such weird extremes to do so. But that inspired truth, stick with that, catch it, feel it, and take it in. Because that's your strength. That's your genius.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing time with me today. And I hope that as audience, you'll click on those show notes, get connected with Suzanne on her Instagram, follow her podcast, and more importantly, follow up in the class that she is offering on Feeling to Heal. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much.
Suzanne's offered us so much value today, and I want to give you the information for her workshop that is coming up this week on the 16th and the 18th. It's a free 2-day workshop called Process What You Feel to Heal, using your hands, breath, and mindset shifts. This 2-day workshop, you'll learn about the 5 core emotions and how in balancing them, you'll have more physical and emotional ease. You'll learn hands-on tools that you can take with you to start feeling better. This is a great setup. And again, the link is in the show notes, or if you get the email, be sure to sign up for that. My newsletter, it will be in there. So click that, check out Suzanne, and I hope that you gained great value. Now go out and lead this week with victory.